Hey, welcome back. We're so glad you're here. Sorry about that little hesitation there. We were just having an amazing conversation and Milena said, "Nope, don't tell me." I'm going to hit record. Boop. And here we are. So yes, this is Delancey, and Milena and I are so excited that you are back with us, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening. I hope you grab a snack, grab a drink, and sit down and have a great chat with us because okay, right now I'm about to choose a topic because we're talking between two topics, and I seriously have not even chosen one just yet. I'm looking at Milena and I feel like I have absolute panic now. So what we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to talk about the emotional roller coaster that is our adoption stories. I feel like that's even though the other topic was great and I was all for it too, but this one I feel
it's a great
like
one. Oh yeah.
this is good. This is
It's
good.
very good.
So Milena, if you had to describe, I mean, I know I said emotional roller coaster, but if you had to describe the emotions of being an adoptee in your journey so far and what you've been experiencing, how would you best describe that to somebody if you had to relate it to like something?
I don't know that there's honestly one emotion I could choose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially with mine being so fresh of just meeting my birth family, but like before, like I feel like growing up, you know, okay, I'll just do this. Growing up, lots of joy, lots of love, lots of happiness
Mm-hmm.
because my parents were just, I never felt different, amazing,
Mm-hmm.
always knew I was adopted. I was their daughter. I still am their daughter, but you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. And then teenage years, kind of like, okay, who am I? This is weird, kind of figuring
Mm-hmm.
out. I don't look like anybody. And then I got
Mm-hmm.
married and I'm like, it's fine. Like, that's how it is. And then after I had babies, I'm like, I really want to know if there's people out there that look like me. And then there's that. And then there's finding my birth family. So then it's like, oh, like this crazy. It's probably like this after I found them. Like, it's not just one set line, it's all over the place. And then it's super plateaued after I met
Mm-hmm.
them because we didn't talk a ton. So I was like, okay, whatever. Life is life. Here we go. And then it all started to ricochet again after that. So, and emotional exhaustion, like you're saying, holy cow. Like, for instance, right now, I can,
Yeah.
it's taken me a month. I've been a month back from Colombia, and it's taken me a month to actually feel like myself again. Yeah. Feel like myself again, to move my body, to eat properly, because I'm not one that doesn't not eat. Does that make sense? When I get stressed, like I love food
Mm-hmm.
and I always eat the food,
Right.
but for some reason I suppressed it. I like didn't want food. So I didn't eat a whole bunch. And of course, your body doesn't love that. And
Right.
so, but the emotional exhaustion was real. There are days I felt like, oh my gosh, I can't move. I can't breathe. I can't, I just want to sleep all the time. This is
Mm-hmm.
stupid. Why can't I feel better? Why am I acting like this? This is dumb. Like this amazing thing just happened. Granted, I go through all the emotions, but it's just like, and it's like, I don't know, like it's crazy how emotional exhaustion I feel sometimes is way worse. For me, I can't speak for Delancey, but I feel like emotional exhaustion is way worse than physical. I really do, because it's your whole
Yeah.
mind and it affects, and then in turn, it affects your whole entire body. So I would say emotional exhaustion is worse. Okay, your turn.
I would definitely agree with that. That emotional exhaustion is worse, worse. Um, if I, yeah, I think with mine, it was very much like, growing up. I mean, if we're just being fully honest, like growing up, like everything was great. Like I had, I no, not a want in the world, not a care in the world, like a greatest family. And it's funny because my sisters will tell me stories about what they did when I was like little. Like they would, take turns holding me and everything. And when I was learning to read, sorry, sisters, but I'm gonna call y'all out on this one because y'all tell about it now. But like, they were, teenagers in their early 20s, and they thought it was hilarious to write out cuss words and have little sister learn to read by reading cuss words out loud and sounding it out. Like, and one of them actually told me like not too long ago, they're like, we were honestly concerned that you would not learn how to actually read because you were not comprehending how to say these curse words. And I'm just going,
Thank you.
I was a child. Okay. But, stuff like that. Like I had a great bond with my sisters, great bond with my
Right, right, right,
parents.
right.
And, and it's kind of like, I, I've never had a bad relationship with my parents. I did go through a time period, like not so much in high school, but in college where it was like, I had a more strict household where, don't, you're not going to parties, which I'm honestly kind of thankful for because I didn't wake up in a field.
Right. No, 100%.
And
Yeah.
not saying I people went to high school with woke up in fields, but I do know there were several parties in fields, and I do know that there are just situations that I didn't need to be in, and my parents knew
Right.
that. So we just I just waited till I was 18 in college to go and enjoy life.
Do those things.
To do those things. It was very intelligent things. But it was never anything that ever happened that wasn't absolutely wonderful, fantastic. Like, the hard stuff that I went through or that I experienced or that I had gone through. None of that was because I was adopted. None of that was because I was different than my family. None of that was, had nothing to do with any of that. I have just happened to be a very stubborn, hard headed individual that, I had the opportunity as a legal adult to go, ooh, I want to go there. And I went there. Like
Right, right, right.
it just was what it was. Um, never anything horrible. Like I've said before, wasn't standing on a street corner shooting up heroin, but I wasn't exactly hanging out with the greatest crowd either.
Right.
Um, but it was never one of those things of like, I never personally had that feeling of, I need to find where I come from. I need to understand. I need to do
Right.
this. The thing that I love about my parents is my mom and I actually had this conversation the other day. My mom goes, "You were so resistant." And she goes, "But I knew you would understand yourself a little more if you could see where
Gotcha.
where certain things come from."
Yeah.
She goes,
Yeah.
"Because we can't give you those answers." And she was like, "You were
Right.
so resistant and you waited until you were ready," which I don't think you're ever really 100% ready for that.
Amen to that.
But I was as ready as I could be. And it was great at first. In that first video that went viral.
Right, right,
It was great in that video. It was great when we kept it at an arm's length.
right.
But the closer I got, the more I got to see things for what they were. And I was able to understand things. I said in a previous episode, my biological family gave me my temper and my anger, but my parents taught me how to use it. I said that to my mom, and she goes, "That is the most profound statement. And that is a very accurate statement."
Yeah.
And she goes, you understand where parts of your natural born personality come from now.
Right.
And she goes, but you also understand where your immediate need to help people comes from, where your immediate
Yeah.
need to she was and my mom said, no matter anything that you've ever done, she was like, you have never felt like you weren't wrong.
Right.
I always had immediate regret, always had guilt, always had all of those things. Unfortunately, my biological family does not have that.
Yeah.
And that was a very, like you talk about emotional exhaustion when it finally came to a head, because the few times, like when it was just phone calls, it was fine. But the few times that we would spend time together, the first few years it was fine because it was very short time periods. But then when it was a very stressful event, um, I mean, I'll just call it for what it was. When it came to um, the my younger half sister getting married, um, that was a very stressful event, and it was one of those things where somehow it was never directly said, but it was somehow put on my shoulders to be Switzerland
Yeah.
for everybody, and to,
Right.
be the go-between for everybody. And, things got said, and I came home, and I think when I drove home from Texas, I was exhausted. Like,
Yeah.
and it was emotional and mental exhaustion. And it's just one of those things
Right.
of, it shouldn't be like that.
No.
And so it's one of those things of, when you're wearing the rose colored glasses, it's wonderful when you're making Instagram content. It's fantastic when it's fresh, and for me, when it was fresh and new, it was exciting and I get to learn all these things. But
Right.
the more I got into the nitty gritty and the more I got into the reading between the lines, the more people that I talked to outside of just the one singular person,
Right.
things started slipping out
Yeah.
that didn't add up to what I was originally told. You know,
Right.
like
Right.
stuff like let's just be real, stuff about my biological dad. I
Right.
still have issues with some of those things because I can't find out,
Right.
you
No,
know?
100%. Yeah.
And also I told my mom that the other day too. I was like, he was 19, 20 years old. I
Yeah.
was a jerk at 19, 20 years old too. Nobody is a genuinely 100% sweet person in 19, 20. You don't know who
No.
you are. You
Exactly.
have no idea. So I say that to say, I was, before this, Melanie and I were talking about how, it'll be a year in December since I have spoken to anybody in my biological side at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back in February, that would have bothered me. Now I just don't care. It
Yeah.
just doesn't. I've taken the time to heal and process, but it took
Right.
that many months. Like if you're
Right.
talking about emotional and mental exhaustion, that many months
Yeah.
to deal with it little by little.
Right. Right. Right.
Because if you deal with it too much, I'm gonna, like, right now I'm wearing my oversized pink hoodie, and Melina was like, "Oh, that's so cute," and I said, "Yeah, I just had a very emotionally and mentally trying day today. So like, in past couple days, so like, I
Right.
this is my hug to myself. Like,
Yeah.
so
And I love that.
sometimes you just need, like, it's kind of, we said emotional roller coaster. I almost feel like it's a pinball machine.
Oh, 100%. That's a better description for sure.
Like
For sure. And
it's a pinball machine.
and I like what you said because I feel the same way. And this is like what we both reiterate and get at is it's not adoption. Adoption is not what has
Mm-mm.
made us this way. Like, yes, there's things in our adoption story that do deal with us being adopted, but neither of us would be like, it's because of adoption that no, no, no. We wouldn't like, and you've been here long enough. We don't blame it on that because you're
Mm-mm.
human and Delancey said it before, adoption is only a part of our identity.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a whole other concoction that is a part of us. And it's so true. And so it really bothers me. Like I still to this day, and I don't know if Delancey feels the same way still. I really don't like when people say adoption is trauma. It really bothers me because it's like there can be trauma involved and it can come at different Casey she feels the same way if you're not watching but it's just like what negates that because it's like there's so many different things you can pinpoint and pull out that you can be like oh that's trauma if it's not adoption you know what I mean you could take whatever you want and be like that's trauma and it doesn't have to be adoption but it's just like we will never blame adoption. This is simply part of our stories. And because we're adopted, we've gone through these ups and downs. But you ask anybody who has just had a life and they've gone through ups and downs as well, discovering who they are, figuring out things,
Mm-hmm.
fall in
Yep.
relationship with friends, family. You know what I mean? Careers. It just is what it is. But obviously, this is an
Mm-hmm.
adoption podcast. So we're making it adoption specific.
Is it? It's weird. Just thought we like talking about it.
But and I love that she brought that up because it's so true. It's like just because and I think my favorite thing still to this day is you can see we both love adoption so much and our stories are
Hmm.
so different. But I just love how I had an interest in, knowing and she didn't. But neither one of us are going to be like those adoptees that are like, well, you should feel this way because of this. It's like,
Hmm.
no, these are our stories and we honor and we respect each other to know that this is
Hmm.
yours, this is mine. And it's still so cool. And my favorite thing is that we're both just so happy for each other and support each other in all the things that happen with it. Even life. Like you guys don't know like 3/4 of the we text each other and stuff about life, not just, you know what I mean? Not
We're
just
not just
adoption. Yeah.
not just about adoption or just about this podcast, because it's like Melina said, we're being adopted is part of our identity. It's part of our story. It's one puzzle piece. It's not the whole puzzle. It's not the whole picture.
Yeah.
Because that, no.
Well, because there's emotional exhaustion that like I only directed it towards adoption. But dude, there's so many different times I can go through, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened and this
Mm-hmm.
happened. Like Delancey knows, there's this friend that I was friends with forever. That relation gets se- severed earlier this year. And it was earlier this year. Was it really earlier
I
this
thought
year?
it was,
Yeah, it
was
was.
it late? I thought it was, yeah, no, I thought it
No,
was
it
late
was.
last year, but it could be early in
No,
this year.
it was
Mm.
earlier this year. And it's crazy because that was emotional exhaustion. Somebody who I never thought would not be a part of my life is now no longer a part of my life. And honestly, I don't ever see this human coming back into my life, but it's crazy how things
Hmm.
work because I'm like, oh, I'm actually okay with that. It's actually been a blessing in disguise that this person will no longer be a
Yeah.
part of my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yes. I fully understand what you mean, because that's the thing. It's like life is such a beautiful thing that not everyone is meant to be in your life for the duration. And that's,
Right.
I think we as humans, especially now with society, is we strive so hard to maintain like all of these connections and have all of these
Right.
followers and have all of these likes and all of these things and da 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 da, da and all the crazy, when really you just need to be thankful for the people that are in your life for a season, even if it's just a
Yes.
season, and just be
Yes.
thankful for that passing through, because everyone that comes in your life is going to teach you something, whether you want to learn it or not.
So
You're
true.
going to learn something from every person you interact with.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I remember that scenario with your
Yeah.
friend.
Delancey knows a lot more than you guys do, but I'm not going to share. But that's what I'm saying is it's just it's just like emotional exhaustion can hit, and when it hits, it's just insane. I think that's what we were getting at is like how crazy it does affect you. Like holy cow, like takes over
Hmm.
everything, and we've both experienced it and we'll probably still both continue to experience it
Hmm.
because it's just a part of life and it's not fun,
Hmm.
but it is what it is. I don't know, you know?
Well, and it's something that Melena pointed out too. She's this is before we hit record, is that, how did you say it? You said how emotion holds on to your body
Yeah, that's where we got
too.
to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
that's where we.
we were
Hmm.
talking about being, and I can attest to that right now. So it's because when I got back from Colombia, just everything, and it's not just Colombia. I went through the same thing when I lost this friend. That's why I brought that up too.
Hmm.
My eating was whack. I was,
Hmm.
and if you know me, I love to move my body. I always move my body no matter what mind frame I'm in. But if it's not with the intent to like strengthen or love myself, nothing happens. And then the weight starts
Hmm.
to put on, which isn't a bad thing because that's my body saying, we're trying to protect you. We're trying to love
Hmm.
you. This is how we know how to do it. And so for me, and I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I pack the weight on when I'm going through something super emotional. It just is what it is. I
Hmm.
do, whether I'm eating a lot, but that's where I was talking about that emotion gets trapped. And until you can figure out
Hmm.
how to release it, oh, it's bad. What about you though? Do you have that at all? I'm not saying maybe
Oh my
physically.
God, you saw my before and after picture from last year to this year. Yeah, that's like definitely, it's, well, and it's not even like, and it's interesting because it's, when I go into those moments, like, and it was one of those things of the depression was really got out of control. It really did. Before I moved back to Mississippi. But it was that emotion, the depression, the sadness, the darkness, that I pretended I was fine and I put on a show for everybody else. But when I got home, it was that emotional exhaustion,
Yeah.
that I am just so exhausted
Yeah.
with pretending like I'm okay.
Right.
I thought
Yeah.
if I worked out all the time, I would be okay. I'm skinny, I'll be okay. That didn't work. So, I started eating like crap because COVID happened. I had already met, I meet my biologicals and I learned where all this stuff comes from. Then that'll make it better. I mean, yeah, I learned some interesting things, but like that didn't fix it.
Right.
Like the emotion, the negative emotions, the self-loathing, the self-hatred, it was still there and it was stuck
Yes.
there. And it's, I mean, I'm telling you, my mom and I've had the most interesting conversations lately. And because my mom and I were looking at pictures from even a year ago, 2 years ago, right before I moved back to now. And my mom was like, it's just such a difference. She was like, what clicked this time? Like
Yeah.
what clicked? And I said, well, I took care of my mental health and my spiritual health first.
Yeah.
and got that aligned. And
Yeah.
then my physical health falls in line right after that because the no matter how much you try physically, like you were just saying, my emotions, if they will just take a hold of me. If I don't have a um I don't want to say like a plan, but like a way to deal with it, I guess.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it like kind of like perfect example. Today I'm wearing like my pink oversized hoodie because I can just feel it coming.
Right.
And I feel like if I do a couple things here and there to combat, like not combat it, but to like ease it
Get ready
in a
for
little
it.
bit
Yeah.
better, yeah, to get ready
Yeah.
for it, it's not as bad and it doesn't affect
Right.
anything and it doesn't stop me from doing anything.
Right.
But yeah, no, that emotional exhaustion, oh yeah, it definitely, because like you're talking about, like no matter what state you're in, you'll move your body. I will not.
Yeah. See,
I
different.
will
Yeah. People
once
are
I'm
different.
yeah,
Yeah.
once I'm in my apartment and I'm by myself and I can be alone, Pocket
Yeah.
and I will lay on that bed for hours and not
Yeah.
move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Like, but it's not like
Yeah.
that anymore. It was like that in the
Yeah.
past. It's not like that anymore. But yeah, no, emotional
Yeah.
exhaustion, absolutely not. It will take over my body and it'll lock me into the bed, and I might like get up. I'll get up and walk her, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mm-mm.
it's a real thing. And it's like it's I feel like it's so hard too with our society because I feel like it's kind of shifted so much and people aren't chasing skinny as much as just being healthy. Like they just want to
Mm-hmm.
be healthy no matter what size they are, as long as they're moving their body and fueling her. And moving your body doesn't have to be crazy. It can be walks. If your choice of exercise or
Mm-hmm.
movement is a walk or yoga,
Right.
I loathe yoga. But if you want to do yoga, you do yoga. You know what I mean? Like you have to find what's going to
Everyone.
make you happy. But like you just gotta dang it, I lost my train of thought. That like dead, just dead, that just died. I don't know what I was
Mine
saying.
does that too sometimes, if that's any help. But it's I appreciate what you're pointing out is that it's not skinny anymore.
Oh,
Skinny is such a dangerous word. It
agreed.
is such a dangerous word because what they say your healthy BMI weight is for a certain height or however it's worded, that doesn't necessarily, if a girl is, if we'll just say women, because I can't speak for dudes because I don't want to. That's just nuts. Like for women, um, it 5'3", 3 and 1/4, whatever my height. Technically, the appropriate BMI weight for me would be 115 to 120.
Really?
I don't know that, or maybe it's like 110, 115. It's something crazy. Like, because my mom and I were talking about that. She was like, well, it says you should be, that's what that says it should. I'm like, I could not have any muscle on my body.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. And I explained, and my mom was like, well, that's a good point. And it's
Is
like muscle's more dense.
yes.
It's not that it, and this is something that I don't know if you ever heard this growing up, but I heard all the time muscle weighs more than fat.
Yeah.
It's more dense than fat
Yes.
is. Like, that's
Yes.
just the way it is. So,
Yeah.
like, getting skinny is ick. And I feel like that's another thing. It's circling it back with the adoption side of meeting your biologicals and making sure that you're mentally and emotionally ready for something like that. And you have a plan
Yeah.
in place in case something happens.
Right.
I know of an adoptee who met her biological mom, and the adoptee ended up with an eating disorder because she was so terrified of
Mm.
winding up looking like her biological mother,
Oh,
who
sad.
was severely, 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 severely overweight, unhealthy, and
Sad.
it messed with her so. And I remembered hearing about that when I was younger, and I guess I just
Yeah.
blocked it out. And I just
Yeah.
never thought about it again because it just,
Right.
and then my
Right.
mom, I think it was my mom and one of my sisters reminded me of the whole scenario.
Yeah.
And it is definitely like you have to be mentally prepared, because if you're not, then
Right.
your mind's going to mess with you, and then you're going to get emotionally
Agreed.
exhausted, and then somehow some way the pendulum is going to swing to one of the extremes.
Right. So true. It's so true. No, there's pictures of me, I think, after Mac. It was during COVID when I had nothing to do. and I overworked out like crazy. I'll admit that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably the thinnest I've ever been because I hate thin, I hate skinny, I hate saying those words. But I
Mm-hmm.
look at it
Agree.
and I can see it's all the hurt, all the pain, all the self-loathing, all the
Mm-hmm.
chasing to be as small as possible to get people to love me. And it's so
Mm-hmm.
crazy because people like see that and they're like, "Oh my gosh, look how good you looked." And I'm thinking, I like this version of me right now where I'm
Mm-hmm.
a lot thicker because I'm more muscly and it makes me
Yeah.
look bigger because it's not toned. So like my arm is grown like 3 sizes and it's not toned. And even if I flex, it's not like woo, but it's muscle under there, but it's grown because it's muscle, not because I'm like putting
Right.
it on. But I take this any day over what I used to
Looking
be because it just
sickly.
makes me sad. Yeah, sad.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. It just makes me sad.
I think there is that middle ground between healthy and unhealthy.
Yes.
Healthy does not look the same on everybody.
Right.
I I think finding your healthiest place is so important, whether that's physical or mental or emotional.
Right. Right.
That is, and if it's, and it's perfectly okay to work with a doctor to find that.
Yes.
Actually, I encourage it. Let's just
Yes,
go
I
ahead and say that.
agree.
I encourage it on all facets, mental, emotional, and physical. I highly encourage working with a doctor because they can help you
Right.
figure out how to get there
Yeah.
and make
No,
sure
and
it's a
I
doctor that's going to listen to you.
no, it's true though. No, it's so true. And I love that you brought up like your height and what they suggested should be because
Mm-hmm.
this is just for the height. And it's like, are you kidding me? You don't know all the genetics
Mm-hmm.
that come into play with that height. They could have X, Y,
Mm-hmm.
and Z, which is going to make it so that's not possible.
Yes,
So that's what I hate about our
exactly.
society. I'm not going to lie. I hate about our society is people see like these people and they're like, I don't know. You know what I mean? They're
Mm-hmm.
like this big, and it's like, come be like, if you, that's, I can't. Okay, I'm gonna rag on influencers for a sec. The influencers that are
Oh,
like,
please
do
do. Go
these
for it.
workouts just like me, and you'll look just like me. Bitch, I am not 5 foot, and I will never. I'm not teeny weeny. I'm 5'6", and I'm built bigger, which I'm okay with. I know that. Like, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're not gonna get the same results as this chick that's trying to sell her app. You're
Exactly.
not. You're
Exactly.
not.
Exactly. And
Mm,
that's the other thing is you're not going to get the same results as them. That's not going to
no.
happen. You're not, you're the likelihood of you looking exactly like them, especially when
Yes.
you're talking about genetics. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know my genetics work against me. I did not know that until starting back in March. I mean, we've had this conversation offline, but I'll go ahead and say now, starting back in March, that was when I was working with my doc and everything and she finally broke it down for me and was like, your genetics work against you. It's nothing against you. I mean, it's like I come from a family of, let's just be honest, athletes.
Yeah.
Like I come
Yeah.
from a family of athletes and athletics
Yeah.
and things like that. And I just couldn't understand like why, I'm strong too. I'm whatever too. Like, but why don't like, obviously I can't look like them because my genetics are different, but why are my genetics that much different to where
Right.
I carry it to what, I mean, like, let's just be honest. At one point, I think last year I told my mom, I was like, I know I look like the guy from Despicable Me because I have little legs and I have yes, yes, let that sink in. Let that sink in because of where I carry my
Stop.
weight. Because of where I carry my weight.
In your stomach, that's where I carry mine.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's
Yes.
just once
And
you're over
it's,
30, your body's like,
well, not just that, but I mean, that might be true for some people, but for me, my body produces one molecule of insulin versus one molecule of sugar when it's supposed to be one versus
oh,
10.
okay.
So
Okay.
that additional insulin sits there and then it turns into fat. And then here we go, despicable me body, and it's not cute.
Can I ask, this is way off topic.
Yeah.
Did you go get
Yeah.
tests done?
Yes. Yes.
I want to go
And
too.
what's interesting, and we can talk about this further, like off here, but what I'm going to say here, and the reason why I'm saying get a doctor that's going to listen to you. I had had blood work done multiple times by other doctors and not knocking them, but between a bodybuilding coach and other doctors, that's where my depression started or really
Oh.
not started, it's not their fault, but it really started getting out of hand because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was your genetics are fine, your blood work's fine, you're just not working hard enough. When I was spending 5, 6 hours a day in the gym,
Oh my
like
hell.
I lived in the gym. It was sleep, work, gym, sleep, work, gym. That's all I did.
Wow.
I did for years. And
Wow.
I never got to look like the other girls did on stage. And they kept telling me, well, you're just not working hard enough. You're cheating on your diet. You're doing this, you're doing that. None of those things were true.
Oh my
And
hell.
then, and then I meet Bio Mom and I see the way that she looks. I see the way that, siblings look. And I'm like, okay, well, we siblings and I share half genetics. So, I mean, this is kind
Yeah.
of accurate for the way I look, especially now with
Right.
as years have passed, I've
Yeah.
seen that. But I look at her and I'm like, okay, so my body type is more like her body type,
Okay. Yeah.
which is unfortunately insulin resistant.
Right. Right.
And it was the doctor here that just said, I just sat in her office when she was explaining it to me. I just started crying and I said, so you're saying it's my genetics?
That's
And she said, yeah.
crazy.
And I was like, I have beat myself up for
Wow.
years, years. And it was nothing I could do,
Right.
no matter how. And that, you want to talk about emotional exhaustion? That's
Yeah.
with the safe, like, so it's definitively like she even asked me, like, do you trust me? And I said, yeah, I do. Like, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I can't fix this on my own. I need to figure out what I can do because I had worked on mental health and getting that correct and learning how to deal
Right.
and spiritual health. Jesus and I are homies now. We've always been homies, but we're closer now. Um, so the physical health came in line next.
Yeah.
And learning about the genetics thing was really, I mean, you want to talk about like I felt like I've been hit by a Mack truck.
Yeah. Seriously though. Now I want to go do it. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to talk more about
Yeah,
it because
we need to talk about that more because it's one of those
I would
things
love
of
to.
learning more about your genetics helps you understand the mental side too and where that
Right. No,
emotional exhaustion comes from.
no, for sure.
At least
And
for me it did.
no, no. And I love that you pointed that out because when I have asked my birth mom, like, are there any medical things I need to be worried about?
Hmm.
She's like, no, we're healthy people. But I also feel like there's things I want to know. And I love how by getting blood work done,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? And so I really want to because I'm like, well, yeah, you may be healthy people, but there's still shit that can arise.
Yeah.
Nobody's iron that you can't, you know what I mean? Everybody has crap that
Hmm.
arises. So yeah, we're gonna have to talk more about that. Oh, that's
Yeah. And
interesting. I'm glad you
see,
brought that up.
well, it's when I feel after seeing that picture comparison, I'm just going, oh, like when did that,
Yeah.
when did I let I've always been an emotional person, but when did I let my emotions control my life that much?
Right, right, right. Yeah. No.
Like,
Yeah.
and I know like with you, I mean, I've only been privy to like maybe the third car of a roller coaster view of what you've been going through with like coming back and dealing and like you're back in America and it's like I don't have Colombian food anymore and I don't have them right here and it's like but I want to talk to them all the time but I can't talk to them all the time and I can't do and it's just like I don't know how have you been dealing with that?
My
Is
hell.
can I ask
You
you
hit
that?
it.
Is that okay?
You hit it like right on the head though. That's seriously how I feel. Like it's crazy because like I told you before, it- it's taken time and I barely feel like I can breathe again. Because for
Mm-hmm.
me, and I've described it a couple times, it was so crazy for me to go meet people who click the same way I click, who have these big, huge hearts. And granted, I know it's our first time meeting. I know there's probably
Mm-hmm.
things as we get to know each other more that'll come out and those kinds of things. I'm not saying that, but I'm just like, it's like you said, it's been hard because I really wish I could bring them all here, but it's just not how it's supposed to work out. But at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
we all have an understanding this is how God wanted it. And
Right.
now that we know each other, there's just time on our hands and we can just make an effort to see each other and to talk to each other. And it just blows my mind how compassionate and amazing they've been, and hearing them talk about things they never really talked before. Does that make sense? And now that I'm kind of back in the picture, I mean, they've never really known me to be in the picture, but now that I like know them and stuff, it's like they get together a lot more, which where they never did before. They weren't hardly involved in each other's lives. And it, like, for birthdays and stuff, yes, but like it was few and far in between. But it's just crazy how, but they all
So
have such big hearts. But oh no, go ahead. What?
I'm sorry. I need a little more detail. Um, they didn't like they didn't like come together for just like a random Saturday afternoon. Oh, just
Yeah.
holidays?
Yeah, birthdays,
Really?
holidays. And you wouldn't really know that, but they told me yesterday, because it was my birthday yesterday. The one brother who speaks English told me, he's like, you know, they won't understand this. He's like, but we honestly never get together. He's like, until you came back into our life, and now we know how precious life is. And now that we have a sister that we didn't know about, and how they now make a conscious effort to be involved in
Mm.
each other's lives. And it's just crazy how that happened. Does that make sense? And it's just like they're human too. And it was kind of
Right.
good to like know, because it's like, this is really selfish of me, but it's like they didn't always hang out when they were younger. And for me, I'm kind of like, okay, so maybe I didn't miss out on a whole lot because they have never been close to each other. You
Right.
know what I mean? Not saying that I, again, don't be people like, I've already had people come at me that they're so sad for my adoptive family, because it's like, you're so happy and so sad that you left your biological family. Your poor adoptive family. You can suck it, because that's not how it is. I've had people on social media tell me that.
Are you
But it's
kidding?
like, no.
Golly, people suck.
Yeah. And so it's like, that's not what I mean. I'm not going to run away. It's not, it felt like home being there in Colombia, because I was surrounded by people who are genetically like me, and I've never been around people like that.
Hmm.
But home is here. And I think I said that last time. Home is here. Home
Right.
is here. Home is here.
Right. That and that makes like all of that makes complete sense. I think the problem comes in is people hear what they want to hear and then they are listening to respond, not listening to understand. Because if they listen to understand, they would hear you say it's almost like your heart felt at home and your heart felt it do it. I'm trying to think how to say this. Your heart felt the the good thing that it was doing, not just for
Right.
you, but for them, because you just
Right.
said it. They didn't get together
Yeah.
otherwise, before that. Now they do.
Yeah.
So you kind of stood in the gap for
Yeah.
them to bring them together.
That's so crazy, because that's exactly what my little brother said last night. Exactly what
Is it
you said.
really?
Yeah, that like gave me chills, because that's exactly what he said. He's like, you filled that gap that we were always missing.
Yeah.
Holy, holy, thank you, Jesus. That 100% was God. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, for you to recognize that, wow.
Yes. I mean, it's because it's important to stay like it's something that they've talked about in church before. It's important to stand in the gap where you can, but the fact that like you legitimately can stand in the gap
Yeah,
for your biologicals is just that's a beautiful thing.
see, that's crazy. That's so crazy. That's so crazy. I like have all the
I
feels right now, because that's so crazy that Delancey
I
just
can't
nailed that on the head.
I don't
So-
know.
oh no. Anything else? I loved where this went, because even though it was like it's
This
all
this
adoption
this went
related, it
all
really is.
over this
But
this like guys, I really hope y'all had a snack and a drink because that went like all over the place.
it was so
And
cool.
I was gonna say I will partially take the blame for that because I definitely drove the crazy
No,
bus around and was like, this way, this
no,
way, this
no.
way. Look at my pink sweatshirt.
Not at all, because really, like, as you listen to it, it all really does tie in, because you talk about genetics, you
Mm-mm.
talk about, you know what I
Mhm.
mean, like different things, and that is what every adoptee
Right.
experiences, whether they want biologicals or not. You know what I mean? You may not know
Hmm.
about your genes, and you're okay with that, and you may know about your genes
Hmm.
or want to know more, and you know what I mean? There's no right
Hmm.
or wrong way for how an adoptee feels. That's what people need to
Exactly.
understand.
Oh God, I love that. There's no right or wrong way.
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong way. There just is.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm so appreciative that you said that. I'm so
Yeah.
appreciative that you said that because it's the facts. Yeah, no, I love what you just said. No right or wrong way, just is. And yep, that's it for me.
So, do you want me to close it out then?
Absolutely. You made me open it. Of course you need to close it out. Oh,
Now you guys get to figure out what our next topic is when we meet again. Okay. Well, thanks guys as always for listening and being here, and we appreciate your support. And have a good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day
whatever
it
it
is
is.
and you're listening. Thanks guys.